What is the you that can be separated from the physical?
Is it a fact that you gathered your body over a period of time?
It's a fact that this body gathered together over a period of time, and it may be that I emerge as a consequence of that, this feeling of I, as opposed to me doing the gathering.
Tell me, you've been having lunch and dinner or…
Have I been having lunch and dinner?
Yeah.
Yeah, this dynamic accumulation has been eating plenty, yeah.
So what you refer to as my body right now is an accumulation of food. It's a heap of food. Not a pleasant way to describe you, but it is. What you call as my mind, largely in people's experience, is an accumulation of impressions over a period of time.
Agreed.
So, if you have to gather this much of impressions and this much of body, something more fundamental must be there, isn't it?
Houston, Texas is an accumulation of roadways and buildings, but we wouldn't say that Houston was there and then gathered.
You are not a piece of geography. You are not a piece of geography, are you?
Well, maybe exactly that, a physical being. I'll tell you why, from my perspective, that seems like a possibility. It's because we're across the street from the world's largest medical center, and every day there are thousands of people there whose geography is changing because of Alzheimer's or stroke or tumor or traumatic brain injury, and who they are changes. It doesn't seem like there's something fundamental that outlasts damage to the tissue.
See, you're talking about thought and emotion. The biggest mistake we have made is, we have given too much significance to human thought. Whatever you think is only happening from the limited data that you have gathered, yes or no?
Agreed.
Yes. So the data that you and me have gathered, however big we may think it is, in terms of the cosmos, it's minuscule, it's nothing. It's really not of any consequence. So from this minuscule of data that we have gathered, we are generating some thought which could be useful in making our lives, it could be useful in creating a few things, it could be useful fundamentally for our survival and to enhancement of our survival process, all this. But it doesn't give you access to life. Thought and emotion is psychological drama that's happening within you. You can conduct it any way you want. You're talking about somebody had a tumor or Alzheimer's or an accident or something and the drama went wrong. The drama can go wrong even without any of those ailments. You ask people. People's drama goes wrong without any accident or injury or ailment, just like that, drama goes wrong on a daily basis for a lot of people.
We usually give that a name though, something like depression or a psychotic break.
That's a business.
Not one I'm making any money on.
I'm saying there's only this much. Either your faculties are taking instructions from you, or they have become compulsive for some reason, all right? Either your body and mind, you can conduct it consciously, or it's become compulsive. That's all that's happening. Whether you call it physical ailment or mental ailment, all that's happened is just this, that your fundamental faculties of existence on this planet is your body and your mind. These two things, you have lost grip over them. So it can become this kind of ailment or that kind of ailment or whatever, but fundamentally you have lost charge. That's all that's happened. If your body and your brain took instructions from you, would you create depression? Would you create illness? Would you create anything? You would create highest level of pleasantness for you, isn't it?
We certainly would if there were a separate you that could gain that control.
See, we can come to this like this. There is something called… because I see that you keep referring my brain. If you say my brain, that means it's yours. What is yours can't be you, right?
It's a colloquialism that we use because I need to refer to this one in here. I need to specify which brain I'm talking about.
See, when I say my hand, I know even without my hand I can still exist. Similarly, If certain parts of the brain are gone, our ability to think and feel the way we were doing it earlier may be gone, but still that person is not gone.
That's the question. So if I lose a little part of my finger, I'm still me, but if I lose a chunk of brain tissue that same size, I can be someone completely different.
No, you're talking about personality. Personality is again an acquired thing.
Beyond personality, I can lose memory, I can lose consciousness, of course, I can lose the ability to perceive reality the way that we do now. I might become colorblind because of a lesion, because of damage to a particular part of my brain. I lose the ability to understand what objects are.
Okay, let's come to this. See, suppose somebody became colorblind because of an injury or whatever that happened to them, unfortunately. That person still knows, I have become colorblind, isn't it? He's still there.
It's true for the person who becomes colorblind, but it's not true for example, a person who is born colorblind. They don't even have a concept that they could be. They don't have a concept of color. So let's take a person who's born blind entirely. They don't even have a concept of vision. So who's the you for them? Do they…
See, even a person who is visually impaired, who's never seen the world around, he still exists within himself. He's as much a man or a woman as anybody else can be. It's just that if all of us were blind, we would be quite a fine society without eyes.
Quite right.
Yes, isn't it? Only because somebody has and I don't have. In comparison, I have a problem. Otherwise, if none of us had eyes, you think we wouldn't have found our way around? We would have. Maybe not the same way, in a different way.
Oh, I totally agree, because in so many dimensions…
There are mammals who are flying by, sound.
Yeah. Well, there are so many dimensions that we are blind to now. So what we call visible light is just a 1/10 trillionth of the electromagnetic spectrum that's out there. We only detect a little bit. In some branches of physics, it seems there might be between 10 to 13 spatial dimensions, not just these three, and yet we're trapped in these.
No, we are moving away from consciousness to perception.
But my point is, we're already blind to most of the world. So I agree with you that, okay, so let's move back to perception.
See, what an individual life is, you cannot disagree that you're life, are you? You're a piece of life, I'm a piece of life, everybody is. What kind of personalities we have acquired, what kind of likes and dislikes we have acquired, what kinds of gods and demons we have acquired, what kinds of other things we've acquired is a social process that's happened to us, cultural and social process. If you were born in a different part of the world, it would be entirely different. Depending upon what we are exposed to, these are impressions that we have taken in, phenomenal amount of impressions. Leaving that aside, let's look at one fundamental. Whatever you gather, you can only claim it's mine. You cannot say it's me, isn't it? Whatever you gather.
How do you mean? You mean your body? You say
anything. I can say, this is my chair. If I sit here every day and then I say, this is me, then there's a problem.
I think there's a possibility that it's exactly what happens, that the stuff that this piece of life can end up controlling becomes me. The reason I think of this as my hand is because it's most of the time is under the control.
My hand is okay, no problem. My hand is okay, me is the problem.
What did you say, me?
My hand means it belongs to you, no problem with that. When it becomes me, then it leads to a completely distortion of perception.
Okay, I think… so you're talking about identity, what you identify yourself as?
See, the nature of the mind is such, it is looking for because human intellect and human intelligence has broken out of a certain bond which was there for every other creature, that they could function like an automated machine through certain instinctual process. What has happened with the human being with the process of evolution is, the human being has broken out of that instinctual process, and there is an intelligence which has to function consciously. But functioning consciously means every moment of life is an exploration, which is too scary for a whole lot of people. So the best thing is identify with something which gives you some sense of what you are. But this some sense of what you are, which you took on based on your social and cultural backgrounds, what you took on, makes sense for your survival process, but not for explorative process. It doesn't explore life, it keeps you sane. It's a good solace, it keeps you… it helps you to sleep well in the night, but it doesn't awaken a different dimension of knowing, it doesn't awaken the possibility of exploring dimensions which are not yet within you. So if this has to happen, the most important thing is to be able to sit here not identified with anything. When I said, it's so hard to remain uneducated in this world, because everybody is busy wanting to teach you something. This is all I did in my life, to remain uneducated, not to be influenced by parents, by family, by religion that's happening around you, culture that's happening around you, education that people are forcing on you, just to be the way creation intended you to be, simply. See, I may not fit into the university milieu, but I'm okay, you know. Just simply the way you were born. Not tangling up your intelligence to any particular thing, either your nationality or your religion or your race or your creed or your family or any kind of identity or your gender or whatever, simply to be able to view your life just as a piece of life. If one does this, then you will see perception will explode in ways that they have not imagined possible.
Now, as a physical body, you're unable to not be influenced by the clothing of your culture, by…
No, this is a statement, this is not a compulsive thing.
But you don't dress as somebody who's Chinese or an Eskimo or something.
When I'm in the North Pole, I will, I think.
So you can't help… So from my perspective, there's this issue of brain plasticity, which is to say that we absorb what's coming in, and I think it's exactly consistent with your description about who you are in the end is an accumulation of all these perceptions. There's also the case that we come to the table with some pre-programming in our DNA, which I think is consistent with what you're talking about, is the memory of all of your ancestors leading up to this point. But because we are creatures that go around and vacuum in our cultures, and we speak this particular language, and we are males, and we dress in certain ways, it's hard to avoid that. Now, I'm guessing you're going to say, but you don't identify with it. Is that right?
See, what is a social requirement is one thing. I just saw you going into the women's room.
And you too, by the way.
Because that was the only bathroom available.
Yes.
So, by social norm, you do certain things. Because in the room that we were sitting, there was only women's room. I don't know why they marked it like that.
I don't know.
So you went in, I went in, every other male went in, only the female did not go. So now what you do for the norm that exists so that you don't collide into situations is one thing, what you identify with is another thing. So the moment you identify with anything for that matter, starting from your body to everything else, what is your body is the limited body, what you call as family is a larger body, what you call as community is a much bigger body, what you call as a nation is a much bigger body, what you call as humanity is a much bigger body. This is how human identities go. People think it's better to be identified with a nation than to be with an individual when there is a war or when there's some situation. People think it's better to be identified with the whole humanity, But any identity limits you. It takes away the fundamental possibility of what this life is. Identity is required for survival process to manage day-to-day situations, but it is not an exploratory process. Because the intention of science is to know. See, technology is a fallout. Unfortunately, in this world, nobody would fund science if it did not spin technology, which is a very unfortunate thing. Because human intelligence wants to know, it need not be useful, it simply wants to know. So technology is useful, and what is useful today, tomorrow you may realize is very destructive, it may take away our life. So technology has to be judiciously looked at, what to apply, what we should not apply, but that judiciousness is gone because everything is commercialized and it's on, full force. Everything that we do after 50 years, we come back and say we did the wrong thing, now we're doing the right thing, and again after 25 years we come back and say then we did the wrong thing, now we're doing the right thing. Every stage of life we seem to know it perfectly well, but after some time looking back we know we did not know nothing, we missed too many pieces. So technology is something that we have to judiciously do. Science must happen rampantly, mysticism must happen rampantly because this is simply exploratory. This is not about seeing how to make it useful. But today, modern science has become a slave of technology. If you don't make it useful, nobody's going to fund you anymore. If you simply say, I want to know, nobody's interested in this. How can it be turned into an enterprise? That's all they're interested in. This is a wrong way to approach science, because science is a fundamental need within a human being wanting to know. It's the nature of human intelligence. It is not something that somebody made up. It's not a bunch of scientists who made this up. This is a fundamental need within human intelligence wanting to know. It is the nature of a human being, if he sees something new, he wants to know what this is, whether it's a small thing or a big thing. So to continuously sustain that wonder, that sense of wanting to know, is the basis of science and mysticism. It is only the fundamental approach is different in the sense, science is trying to achieve everything through physical means, by taking physical quantities, going by the physical laws. But physical is like the peel of the fruit, it has no purpose of its own. The peel is useful only as a protective layer to the fruit. Once the fruit is eaten, peel goes to the trash can. See, right now, the fruit is inside, so this body is very important. We have to feed it, we have to decorate it, we have to dress it up, we have to pamper it in so many ways. Tomorrow morning if the fruit is gone, nobody is interested in this body anymore. Nobody wants to transact with this anymore. Only because there is something else inside, body is such great significance. Once this is gone, what is this? This is just like a fruit peel. People want to get rid of it at the earliest. At least in America they dress it up. In India, within 4 hours you must get rid of the body, that's the rule. Because once it's dead, leave the dead to the dead, you know, somebody said long time ago. Once, as long as they're alive, you do whatever. Once they're dead, you're done. Because the peel is meaningless without the fruit. Right now, the fundamental flaw in this approach is, though it's produced phenomenal results in terms of well-being for us, comfort for us, convenience for us, the kind of comfort and convenience we're enjoying, no other generation ever has known on this planet. This is a fruit of science or technology rather. In spite of that, will it lead to human well-being? That's a question mark. Comfort and convenience will come, but will well-being come? That's a question mark, because if you look back on the humanity, let's say 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, how people were and how people are you today, are you more joyful than them? Are you more blissed out than them? So, are you more blissed out than previous generations? It's not true. We are in much more comfort, but we are not in much more joyful states or pleasant states within ourselves. Or in essence, our well-being or the fundamental quality of our life has not changed, though the physical quality of our life has changed like unimaginable proportions in the last 50 years. So, we are trying to approach everything through physical means. If you go through physical means, you will hit that glass wall somewhere. I think In my perception, I'm not a scientist, I don't know all of it, but in my perception, I think the physicists are near the glass wall. They might not have hit it, they're near.
That's the unknown question.